You guys some of the ways to pull out your front end on your bug. Um, there's a lot of different options on trying to pull this out. A lot of times I use a porta power, and if it's really squished in, I'll start with a porta power right here with the jaws, and I'll start pushing this out. But remember, as you push out, you need to hammer on your kinks. So if you can look at this one right here, this has got a kink right here. You can see a kink right here. So you look at your car, you got to take time, look at the car, figure out some things, figure out how it was pushed in. If this one's pushed in the bottom, so when I push this back out, the fender won't fit so weird, and look, so it was like bulging out. Then I can push that back in place and trying to keep this car looking kind of original. I'm gonna have to do something with that apron though, because I don't want it to look ratty. So we've got the kink right here. If you look at this side, there's no kink, so that kind of tells you the types of things to look for. Plus of course we've got lots of rust to fix. But I'm going to go ahead and pull this front end out so you guys can see. We also look here in the corner. This is pushed in, okay? This side isn't, so this is straight, you see? And this is pushed in over here, and it's pushed in and kinked right there. So I might have to have multiple things going on at the same time to get this to pull out correctly. But what I'm going to do is some of the techniques I'm going to use are things like this here. So I've got this hooked on here. It's better if I have something like, if you have a porta power, what they have is they have a little arm that I don't have one, but it's like you can take a piece of two pieces of square tubing and have one going this direction and one going under the car, and you hook one end on to the frame here, and the other end you'll have a jack that goes at an angle, and you'll put a chain from, say, right here over, and that elbow, when it's jacked out, it'll just start to move out this way, and what it'll do is it'll pull it out. And if you can have tension on here while you're doing your hammering, so you'll just open it up, get it tensioned, and then start hammering a little bit. That's a better way to do it, but again, I don't have the tool. You guys can make one if you really want to. It's just two pieces of square tubing and a hinge, so that works really amazing. So I've seen guys use those. It's an old school frame machine, what we used to call them, and the old frame machines were like that. Now they have everything done on a bench, so it's totally different. Framework is done different than it used to be because it's all unibody. Before it was frames. So hang on, I'm gonna do a couple pulls on this thing. We'll take another look at it. Alright, so I used my slide hammer, connected it to here. This is a fender bolt, so I went ahead and did some pulls with that. Looks like it's pulling apart the metal down there, but that's okay. We're gonna weld that up again. But I did see that this kink was starting to go down a bit. I don't know if you can even see in here what happened. This one went back a little bit. This kink went down a little bit. So now what I need to do is hammer on some of the kinks to knock them down, to help weaken them up, so so the memory of the metal will go back to where it used to be. Alright, so check out the progress here. You see it's a lot straighter than it was, and it's taking the correct shape. But I do notice that this is still bent. I think this is actually slightly high right here, and this has obviously hit the steering box at some point, but I think it's still back just a smidge, so it needs to look like this when you look down it. So we're not there. So anyway, I've got to figure out the next thing. I've just been hammering. You just work your kinks. You look for your kinks. You hammer on the kinks and you do your pull. You hammer on your kinks and you do the pull. If you can pull it and hammer on the kinks at the same time, it's more effective. But I don't really have a way to do that. I mean, I probably could figure out something with tools I have, but this is working, so I'm good with it. So I've moved it a bit more still, getting this straight. I'm running into down here in the corner. What's happened is, you see the shape of this thing is shaped more square, and over here it's kind of got a different oblong shape because it's bent. So I think the only way I'm going to be able to straighten that is actually to weld a piece. So I'll just take this piece of square tubing, weld it on right here, then I'll put on my clamps on the porta power and use this as leverage to push the front end out. Let's see how it works. Well, you end up with a lot of tools going on these things when you do these pulls, but pretty much got it pretty straight at this point. I mean, it's not perfect, and on a front end like this, you're not always going to get it perfect. So I think the rest of it, what I need to do is just weld in my little welding inserts in there. You know, some guys will take this whole thing off. What I do is I get the fender, I get these things here from Wolfsburg West, and I'll just weld it in that hole when they're like this. If they're rusted out, then I'll replace them. Or they're missing, but I'll just squeeze that back together with a pair of pliers, put another insert in there, weld it in, and then maybe while that's welded in, I might just do a little bit more pulling with the slide hammer, and that should get this whole front end looking good. Now I got one little kink right here. I'm using a deadbolt hammer because it's quieter. It's not as noisy. It's a little harder to do, but it's not as noisy. If you're worried about your neighbors, that's the best way to keep them happy, is to not make noise. Pounding, people just hate. People can't stand pounding. So anyway, that's it. I mean, it looks pretty good. That's a pretty tough pull there. And when I did it, if you look here at my metal, I only welded one side of it so I could take it off easily, and it flipped over. So you're only looking for a temporary hold, so you don't want to get it on there too good. You just take this loose here, take that out. Usually you can knock your welds back off if you didn't. I had to weld a little more than I wanted to. I did it once and it just came right off, so I didn't get enough heat on there. This time I got a little more heat. Of course I got enough heat to blow through it, so that's enough. Alright, so anyway, I'll just weld those up and grind it back down, do another little pull there, and I think we're pretty much ready to go. Alright, so I'll talk to you guys in the next video. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe. See this 60 bug get restored, or not restored. We're just going to do a semi-restore patina ride. So talk to you in the next video.